Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
All right, well, so good to be with all of you again. Incredible opportunity to embrace these incredible teachings on the path to enlightenment. Last week, we wrapped up our insights into the 6 root poisons. Yes, the driving wheel of all of samsara. Really starts with 3, and then 3 more, and then just spreads out. And so we'll just do a little summary, and then we'll get into the next section. Pop open the text right now. So quick review, the 6 principal delusions: attachment, anger, and ignorance. Those are the primary 3. So primary 3, the number 1 is ignorance. You get rid of that, it all falls apart. In other words, if we see reality, ourselves as we exist, we're free of all this. That's the main one. Then from there, we have attachment and anger. And then it spreads out: arrogance, deluded doubt, deluded views. That we had good discussion on those last week. And so the goal here is to notice when those show up, right? We had a week on arrogance, we had a week on ignorance, so forth. And to be mindful to notice them as they arise. And the next point here would be, sorry about that, clicked on the wrong, is moving towards the disadvantages of delusions. So one thing to be aware of them, see how they interact in our lives. Then the next phase here is really understanding their harm. Boy, I'm trying to get there. Okay. Just trying to move my little tab out of the way. So these disadvantage of delusions, what you're going to find throughout this whole text and throughout all of these reflections on analytical meditations, is what's the disadvantage of something and what's the advantage of something. So if there's no real disadvantage, I'll just keep doing it. A little more sugar in that coffee. What's wrong? But if I notice that, there's some harm here, then I may stop doing it. What's the advantages of engaging in a particular behavior? And that's why, even at the start with our meditation, is this worth my time? Is it helpful? If so, it's worth engaging in. If it's not, why am I doing it? So there's always this piece where we take some time and recognize, is there value in engaging in a practice or cultivating a certain quality? If so, what is it? Why would I engage in it? And are there some things that are harmful? Understand there's harmful. I might then be motivated for change. So really important to be clear about these things, motivators. So now we'll look at the disadvantages of these 6. Some people believe that emotions like anger and attachment are natural parts of human nature that we need to survive and flourish. There's also the notion that the brain is hardwired to experience them, and thus they cannot be eradicated. According to Buddhism, not only do we not need these emotions, we're better off without them. It sounds harsh, man. Huh? They are obstacles to our well-being, happiness, and spiritual attainments, and they can be eradicated. It takes time and effort to do that, but understanding their disadvantages, how they cause problems for ourselves and others, both now and in the future, will give us the enthusiasm that we need to work on vanquishing them. So yeah, let's just start with that discussion because I think that's a rich one. The statement being, okay, human nature. We hear that all the time. Well, I'm only human. That's human nature to get angry. It's human nature to have fear, right? And insecurity, anxiety. And so, in one sense, I would actually say that's true. I wouldn't argue that point. But then I would quote Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi, and he says, let me just nail this. To think that I'm only human is nothing but a self-imposed limitation. Right? So as I identify that I'm only in this human limited condition, well, then I'm always stuck in a limited human condition. And part of those human experiences, anger, attachment, aversion, all of those things are who I am. But to say I'm only human is nothing but a self-imposed limitation. So maybe you are that which is experiencing your human nature. It's a little different space, right? What's aware of being human? And there's this opportunity then start thinking, well, possibly there's, as we talked about last week, there is that which is aware of our humanity, that which is aware of these emotions. And that might not be human in nature. It's just showing up that way at the moment. So that's something to explore and it's something to tease out. But then, if we don't think of ourselves in that way, and I fully identify with being human and humanity and all that is human, then the way to look at this is, are these human emotions that I experience that connect me to others in life, the way that I live, are they showing up in ways that align with reality that are beneficial to this experience or not? Or are they inhibiting me from showing up in a way I feel good about? When I'm angry or frustrated, rising, am I not able to be loving and kind to my partner? Right. So then we can start understanding that as a human with human nature and the experiences of a human, I'm going to experience a lot of emotions that can be quite detrimental, that are unnecessary in my own human experience, that block me from being a good human. So you're still working with these same principles. And in a human body, experiencing human emotions, identifying as a human, you're still capable of noticing anxiety come and go, frustration come and go, and you're still there. I think humans can do that and be pretty human about it. And so there comes this piece, and this is really where I've been living the last few weeks, is where's your free will? Right? Where's your free will? Where's your opportunity for choice? Do you have such an opportunity? I went into that last week. But can you, as a human, pretty much know that this is an unhealthy thing to do and you do it anyway? I'm sure none of you do that, but I've noticed that's happened. I've been like, pretty unhealthy decision. I'm all in. The body's just going there. And then I'm going to stop a certain behavior. I'm starting all new. Got New Year's resolutions, man. No problem. Well, we'll do that tomorrow because it's woke up late. There's stuff to do. I'll fight it. And you may notice that your conditioning has this inertia to it. And even though your mind is saying, yeah, I'm going to stop doing that stuff. And then all of this conditioning, we're doing it anyway. Or we're really good for a week and then we just stop doing it. We forget doing it. We get on a roll and then let's slip and then not do it and then fall back. So where's our free will in this? Where's that observer, that can observe sensations, compulsions, impulses that arise and think, John, you probably shouldn't have the second piece of that cake, even though others didn't eat it and you're self-sacrificing to help others out. It still may not be good for you, no matter what your bodhisattva vows are motivating you to do. See that rationalization there? It's pretty good. So we have this opportunity sometimes to be really clear in a moment and still not be capable of making a choice that would be good for you. But mostly, we're not there in the moment to make the choice, right? Mostly, we're just doing stuff and we're reacting and life's going on. So thinking about this in terms of how would you like to have more choice in your life? How would you like to not be a prisoner of every emotion, thought, or feeling that arises? How would you like to experience them, not stuff them, feel the fullness of them, and learn what they're sharing with you, and then still be able to respond in a way that's meaningful out of a conscious choice instead of a reactive emotion. I think it's a healthy human way to live if we can develop these practices. And then we want to kind of notice how we work with these emotions, how they arise, how we identify with them. So on one hand, modern Western psychology is really saying that, these are natural human things. They're how they are. You're not going to get rid of them. Never get rid of anger. Never get rid of these things. Not possible. Buddhism would say, oh yeah, they're only arising because you misunderstand yourself. And if you didn't misunderstand yourself or how the world works or how things arise, then there's no need to get angry, have anxiety or fear. Those seeds aren't there. You see clearly. And that was the Buddha's big, awakening, is that we could be free of these. So, as we talk about all the time, there's no need to adopt a view that doesn't make sense to you. But would it be appropriate to say I'm always going to be a human with all these afflictive emotions and there's no out? Or middle view, I'm a human being with a lot of afflictive emotions that arise based on a lot of my conditioning, and I can reduce them, which I think fair. And there might even be one that says, I don't know if I'm more than human or not, but it's possible. It's possible. I don't know. How would I know? I think the only way to know is to be not human, right? So, uh, okay, maybe it's possible, maybe not. And so this is our constant refrain, is to not close the door unnecessarily. There's no reason to close the door, I don't think. And meet myself where I'm at with this, which is I'd like to be a better human. That's a pretty appropriate way to live. And being a good, healthy, ethical human is not a waste of a lifetime. And from a Buddhist perspective, it could easily create the conditions for total freedom. But pretending you're something you're not is not always very helpful. So The exploration here is, are my emotions, thoughts, feelings that are arising based in reality or not? There is the tricky business and where we get some great insight. And I think he's going to go to Shantideva. We'll take a look at that. And that's really, I think, my reference point is, have I ever had a harmful emotional reaction or experience that's ever been based in reality? I've never found that to be the case. I've never found one since I've been looking, which is only about 30 years. So I don't know. Haven't found one yet. So let's take a look. Shantideva. Chapter 4 of Shantideva's A Guide to a Bodhisattva's Way of Life contains numerous verses on the faults of delusions, which he refers to as enemies. Although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither any arms nor legs and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I been used like a slave by them? This is a selection of other verses by Shantideva on the disadvantages of delusions. Oh, there's a typo there. This, okay, thank you. I missed the end. This and a selection of other verses by Shantideva on the disadvantages of the delusions are in the appendix 6 of this book and can be used to supplement your meditation. But let's just take a point here. Although enemies such as hatred and craving have neither any arms nor legs and are neither courageous nor wise, how have I been used like a slave by them? And so, coming back to exploring like anger and hatred. When we have anger and hatred arise in the mind, is it arising based on something that's truly a cause that accords with reality or not? And then a real good starting point is simply, am I angry? Or am I experiencing anger? Is it temporary? And then with the anger, where is it coming from? Now it's triggered by something, someone, some event triggered. Anger arises. So anger is arising in the space of my mind, this mind-body experience here. And I'll point that, this thing is making me angry, or this person. And then we kind of can go into someone else is not angry based on what that person is doing, and I am. So are they the cause or are they not the cause? And then I might dig into why I'm angry and they're not angry, and start exploring that a little bit. Well, is it, I think things should be different than they are or not? Probably I think things should be different than what's happening because I'm angry. They're blocking what I would want. And then we can get into, do I know how things should be? And why would I want something to be that way? And is this person doing something to be malicious, or maybe this person's doing something malicious unintentionally or intentionally? We don't know. Maybe we think we do. But what we can do is we start teasing down every event. And then we might explore the idea that if that didn't happen, we would be better off. Except we don't know that because it didn't happen. That's just a made-up story. And then it did happen. And then is this thing that is creating anger an opportunity for me to become more resilient, grow, have more inner resources, respond in a way that improves the world or not? And how do I know that this thing that happened isn't something that is triggering different events in the world that create a different kind of change that's helpful? And am I taking into account that this thing that happened isn't an isolated event? It arose because of all the conditions and the life story of the person doing it, or the people that raised that person, and the food that they ate, and all the conditions that gave rise for this event to happen that arose. And that, multiple things were unfolding at a particular time. But I'm pretty sure I know how the world should be. I'm angry because it's not that way. Am I starting to think this person's independent, self-existent, or I'm independent, self-existent? Or am I understanding there's an interdependence and that even my anger will be proportional to how I'm attending to this event? Do I know this person and I like them and they're doing something that's harmful? Or do I hate this person and they're doing something that's harmful? My level of anger is variable. Or if someone I don't like could do something less harmful and I'm really pissed off. Someone I do like does something very harmful, I'm less pissed off. Pissed off being the technical, actual emotional label there. And so we start going, okay, well, as these anger arises, I tend to point at something as though they're the cause, when what's really cause is going to have a lot to do with me and how I think the world should be based on my limited experiences and a view. But then we have to ask, is anger helpful? Is it helpful? And then there's a whole argument and debate about that. A lot of Western psychologists would say, yeah, anger can be very helpful. It's part of the human experience. And I think most of us can relate to doing something out of anger that's healthy. Like, you piss me off enough that I'm finally going to do the right thing and I'll show you. Like, I got angry enough that I'm going to do something. And but when we start looking at how much damage gets done with anger, how many times we've said things that have harmed ourselves and others. Is it necessary? Is anger necessary? Is it beneficial? Or can I see suffering and have compassion arise? Would that be more useful? And then, am I a prisoner of the emotions that arise? Or if I shift how I attend to something, can I have a different emotion? Right? This person who's a jerk that I don't like, I find out they're got a disease and they've only got a year left to live. It's interesting. I'm not as angry at them anymore. How I'm attending to someone, what I'm attending to about them. Am I seeing them as someone who is like me, trying to learn how to live, trying to change their life, trying to be okay, try to get their needs met? And then, am I angry at someone who actually exists? Which is I think the biggest delusion. I find it fascinating how I can be angry and resentful at someone that doesn't exist. It's not very helpful and doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So if we think about people that we're angry with, plug in my computer. And we use this analogy all the time. That person who did some harm to you 3 years ago, do they exist anywhere but your mind? That person 2 years ago, 3 years ago, well, they're not that same person anymore, right? They've changed, they've evolved, they've done. So I have a caricature of a person in my mind who did something to me 3 years ago, and I'm pissed off at that person who doesn't exist anywhere except my mind. And who's it harming? Me. It's fascinating how we do that. And then we'll say, well, I'm never going to forgive them. I'm going to be suffering for the rest of my life because I'll never forgive someone who doesn't exist, who's anywhere but my mind. So our mind, tricky business here, how things exist, how people exist. And start exploring. How about that person who did that harmful thing? Do they still do those harmful things if we even know them today? Or could they at some point change their life and be a different kind of person? I'm not the person I was. And I've done a lot of harm in the world. And if you were to know me based on how I used to live 40 years ago, you would see me very differently. But I was that person. I'm this person. Likewise, all of us have done harmful things. All of us have done helpful things. And people that we know right now who have a pattern of doing unhealthy things still have the potential to, in the future, do some pretty healthy things. This is where I come up. I think it's Gandhi's quote. All saints, wait, no. Yeah. All saints have a past, and all sinners have a future. That where are we in this journey? And then, core root delusion is that the person who exists is independent and self-existent. I am John. I'm the same guy I was yesterday, and it's the same John that's going to keep going through life. And John's angry. But is my anger really anything other than my fears and insecurities and identification? And is that all part of my mind body experience? So then we can start probing when we have afflictive emotions. Is it true? Right? Is it true what I'm angry about? And is my response, this emotional arising, proportionate? So I've generally found that most of the time when I have very strong emotions like that, I feel very independent, very self-existent, and I've made you very independent, very self-existent in ways you don't exist, in ways I don't exist. And then with a pretty self-righteous way of, I think I know how the world should be, and I'm pretty sure I know how you should act. And I really wish you'd buck up and get your act together so I could be happy. And you guys are not very cooperative. And so then we go, okay, is that a realistic approach? Or how about, as I am conditioned through my experiences, through my traumas, through the struggles I've been through the love I've received, through the lessons I've received, through the disappointments I've had, the embarrassments I've had, traumas I've experienced, has all that helped condition how I experience you and experience me? And if that's true for me, isn't it true for everyone I meet? And that everybody's kind of trying to find their way, trying to do their thing, trying to be okay. And in this messiness, some people are doing some things that are helpful, some harmful. And is there a utility in using anger and hatred to improve that situation? Or is there a utility in understanding these driving forces and responding skillfully without that anger and hatred, but more with compassion and understanding to have appropriate boundaries, take the next resistant stance to something that's unjust, but without all the afflictive anger, hatred, uh, mental afflictions, which might be more productive. and less harmful to yourself and others. So this week is really the invitation to start exploring when we have strong emotions. Are they based in reality? Or am I very identified as an independent, self-existent being and others in that way? Am I pointing the finger at them as the cause of my anger? Or do I recognize that anger is in here, not there? And they're triggers. And they're triggers to conditioning of the seeds of anger within me. And if I work on these seeds of anger in me, they can't be triggered. If there's no seed, there's no trigger. If I understand that I'm interdependent and that emotions and thoughts and feelings are going to arise and I get to experience them and feel them, and that other people are struggling in their own ways. And when you do something that one might think would offend me, who's offended? My insecurity is offended. And my insecurity does not need me to defend it. It's fine on its own. And I go, okay, so I don't need to have that be offended. Why would I be offended? Somebody's just struggling and doing things and saying things in ways that are harmful to themselves and others. They're sharing their own struggle. And so as we work on understanding interdependence, as we work on understanding how emotions arise and how they get triggered, and ultimate causes are within our own conditioning. We work with our conditioning, there's less triggers and less activation. And if we remove the seeds of anger, resentment, jealousy, insecurity, well, they can't grow, right? There's nothing to be triggered. And so what most people have been around for a while start noticing is as we start understanding how people exist and this interdependent way that we live, and that we're always in a state of becoming, and that I'm having a subjective experience, not an objective experience. And how I attend to you has a lot to do with how I experience you, and that I can attend to you in one way or another way, have a different experience. Well, then we notice that we get angry less, we get anxious less. You don't have to be right all the time. Boy, that takes a lot of work. And you can more skillfully navigate the human experiences that we have in more productive ways. So, key is, are these emotions, have they been harmful or helpful? Are they based in reality or not? Where's the ultimate arising of these emotions? Everybody's got that, right? Nothing to it. Now, in order to test this, though, we need to be mindful, right? We need to notice the emotions. And for me, nowadays, just the moment I have a strong emotion, there's a big red flag. Wow, not delusional. Doesn't mean I can stop it. Just means at least I'm aware of it. Right? And then check, and then when that emotion, comes down, how do we respond? So I'm going to pause there, see if anyone has any thoughts, questions, curiosities, comments. And if not, we can bring the dog back, Wiley.
Hey, John.
All right, here and now, Center.
I was just thinking about how it's helped me a lot to realize that everybody else is living in their own world, so to speak, as well. Like they have their own triggers and their own subjective experience and their own history, and different than just taking things less personally because of that. I just realizing how much work it's taken me to even be aware of my own triggers and my own emotions and be able to do anything about them. And then, even after years of meditation, I can still, an emotion can still get the best of me. And, just realizing that most people aren't meditating every day or trying to look at this stuff in the same way. So, yeah, just walking around the world. And with that awareness has helped me take things a lot less personally when things come up for people and I'm around them. I'm more in a mood to be helpful than be reactive. So yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well put in experience.
Hey, John, thank you
Yes.
for your teaching. You mentioned removing the seeds of anger or other emotions, and I was looking back on my notes from last week, and I'm starting to get it that first I need to stabilize my mind through shamatha, and then you mentioned the next step may be an analytical process. So I was wondering if you can say more about that.
Sure. So, yeah, Craig had asked about, how we engage in this. So what we're doing right now is an analytical process. And so this actual whole book would be a way to meditate on all these topics and go through the three wisdoms: wisdom of hearing and teaching, second wisdom, analyzing, really tearing apart, testing, seeing if that teaching holds up, does it make sense, is it legitimate? And then, that's what we're doing now, right? We're kind of testing it. And then if I find something to be true, I get a realization. So hear a teaching, study a teaching, then analyze a teaching, question a teaching, and then a realization. Oh, yeah, I'm not my anger. And then you meditate on that realization, right? So you just sit with that, you let it soak in. And so in the Galupa tradition, which is this lineage, it's the lineage I'm trained in mostly, they go through these meditations to really gain some anchor of the truth of them. So it goes from an intellectual conversation to an embodied experience of wisdom that we have. All of us can talk about this right now, and 2 hours later, that guy pissed me off, man. What a jerk. I mean, God, what so-and-so did, And so it's pretty easy, right? Fall back. We can have a great epiphany at 8 a.m. and forget those epiphanies by 10 a.m. And, those things happen. So really sitting with one thing. So this vipassana, this insight. And so these are meditations on that. And what we're doing here is, since most of us, don't have hours and hours a day to meditate, our primary practice being shamatha, where we can at least be present and mindful, then we have an opportunity to experience these things mindfully, is to have our discussions, but make our life the vipassana practice, right? So set the intention. Today, I'm going to notice afflictive emotions. Today, I'm going to notice when they arise, and I'm going to check on them. If I have a different attitude, would it still be like that? And then I'm going to just explore. Are they necessary or not? Are they helpful or not? And in that process, I think everyone will, if we engage in this, will realize emotions are temporary. You actually have some capacity over how you experience them. Doesn't mean you won't experience them. And so the analytical part, if you don't have a stable mind of meditation to be mindful, we're not able to then observe the sensations and the emotions as they arise. So a nice solid meditation practice, and then in the day setting the intention, each day this week to notice of, strong emotions and explore them, just explore them and notice their nature. And then the question is, are they hardwired in you or not? And in fact, you might have a very different emotional experience, when you, as Jessica was pointing out, when I noticed that everyone's got their stuff and everybody's going through their own thing in their own world, I don't take it so personal. I don't have as strong an emotional response. But if I really think so-and-so is a jerk and everything they do is harmful, I have a very different emotional experience. So that's the Vipassana, the way we do it. However, technically, if you were going through these trainings and you would meditate, do these meditations, so you just meditate on this for a long time until you get some realization, and then see how it works in your life. We're trying to spend a week on each one. Are you leaning forward, Malia?
I'm leaning forward. I was unmuting.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a comment. Also, thanks, John, for the teachings. Nice to see everyone. All of this brought up for me just how easy it is to be justified in anger, and kind of how we have an incoming phone call. So just how justified I can be in my anger, where, I perceived that I was hurt, or I didn't understand why something happened in a relationship, or just something that happened in life. And then it's like amazing how the attachment really goes so hand in hand with the anger, where it's like, because of my hurt and not knowing what to do with the hurt, then it's like the anger is the only thing left to kind of hold on to to justify that the experience happened or was real. And it takes a lot of courage to be willing to let go of anger or work through anger, or really recognize, like, and kind of question, like, what was this really rooted fully in reality? Was I perceiving this correctly? And I think that that courage piece is so rooted in, like, do we feel like worthy and safe enough to, like, question our own anger, like the thing we're holding on to yeah.
Thank you, Malia. Very well put. You'll be here teaching next week, right?
Wyatt will.
Yeah, and so there's this whole discussion, and it gets like, what about justifiable anger? And that's an interesting phrase. And I think for, what's reasonable is valid anger, right? So all of our feelings are valid. Anger is valid. We're triggered. It's valid. There's a reason for it. So there's no reason to be in shame, or, some people think, well, I shouldn't get angry, or I shouldn't have been angry. No, anger arose. It got triggered. It arose. It's valid. Doesn't mean it's appropriate, but it's valid. And when we can get to that place of understanding that our feelings are valid and that we are worthy, right? That we have value, that you were talking about, right? That understanding that, yeah, my emotional experience can be very disproportionate to this situation, but it's valid. It arose for a reason, right? There was conditioning in me, there's stuff that was going on, and it arose. And it might have arose in shame, or it might have arose in insecurity, or it might have been in arrogance or whatever, or anger. But distinguishing the idea between justifiable anger and valid anger is, I think, where we have a lot of room. Justified anger is where, yeah, I'm justified in hanging on to this anger. And then, the next question is, does anything you do to me justify me maintaining harm to myself for extended period of time, right? Because as I'm justifying anger, who's suffering, right? I am. And it's very hard to, as you point out, to let go, right, of that, to allow it to come and go, because we're very identified with it and we're fused with it. And so often, as you point out of fear, we might seek validation, let our friends know, and, yeah, no, you should be angry. And so getting away from the word justify, that's where I notice the stickiness versus having a valid experience of anger that arose, and it's information and it's teaching me something. But when we don't have the skills for that, right, and we have some struggle, that courage to let go of something like an anger or resentment, but letting go of that, because ultimately you're giving yourself permission to heal, right? As long as I hang on to it, there's no healing. As long as I justify it, there's no healing. And but if I understand it's valid, and that I'm valid, and that the messy emotions in my life are valid, and it's really just part of this human experience that's teaching me, then that anger has a place to then go, right? I don't need to grab onto it. I don't need to identify with it. But again, these are advanced practices. That's a place to get to. And often, sometimes sharing out loud your struggle with anger, getting a sense of validation, giving words to it, can help one let go. The key is always to understand that it is a temporary emotional experience, and not, what I'm pointing my finger at is never the ultimate cause. All right, Keith, now you can go. Are you going to put Wyatt on, or are you going to talk?
I think I'll try to talk here.
Okay.
Well, you just segued into exactly what I wanted to say, and that is how deep the conditioning runs to blame the anger, my anger, on someone or something outside of me. I mean, that is a huge step for me to be able to calm down enough and get in touch with reality enough to shift gears out of that blaming to the outside, and then be curious about what got or not even, well, to recognize this is a feeling that got triggered in me, and then to apply curiosity to that. Just that can be a really huge process for me. And when I can do it, it really is fruitful. I'm not doing harm. I feel better, and I'm usually learning something. Back to some pickleball dharma. So I've noticed definitely some anger can come up with me when I'm playing with Kurt and what's going on. There's just so many great metaphors that go on this court, and I want to blame Kurt for whatever, for we did poorly or lost that point, or, that somehow this, that, or the other thing. And that's just not right. Like, I have to really work hard to stop myself from that. And then recognize it's my trigger. It's not Kurt. No one else is angry at Kurt. Like, like everyone else is fine. And so it's not inherently Kurt. And and then start asking the questions, like the levels of mindfulness help me a lot at that point. Once I can shift to looking in myself and out of the blame part. And I've learned a lot of lessons about, why I'm so attached to this anger and these reactions. And it goes back to childhood stuff and shame and my own insecurities. So there's the golden nugget that now I get to work on. And, but it's a big process to buck that conditioning and get all the way to that point where I can learn something about myself and take the opportunity to grow. Yeah, it takes a lot of motivation to do that too. It's so much easier really just to blame and go that route, but definitely not as rewarding and certainly potentially a lot more harmful. So
Thanks. We're all looking forward to the book, the Dharma of Pickleball. Okay, Sam.
So,
Microphone there.
so justifiable anger there really isn't justifiable anger. But you said there's validated anger. But that's only validated because we have these seeds to begin with. So, and we have these seeds through ignorance or misinformation. So we can get rid of these seeds. So there really isn't a validation for our anger, is there?
So in that moment when you have the seeds, there's a cause and effect. So that's valid.
Okay.
That's all. So it's valid in that the conditions did ripen for anger to arise.
All right.
Anger itself, as Shanti Deva's pointing out, has no arms, no legs, no anything, right? It does not exist from its own side.
Thank you.
Yeah, this conversation makes me think about like how, as we practice, we enrich our tools and our, all the tools we have in our tool belt, and it relates to an assignment that we just had in our immersion semester. So some of you online who have done this assignment, you'll remember, but the assignment is to respond with appropriate antidotes for, let's say, we take anger and we take it at the lightest level of, mild irritation, and then stronger, maybe frustration, and, on and on, all the way to rage, and 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 really explore what are some antidotes, some tools I could use if it's just mild irritation, and in the middle, and then all the way to rage. And in this way, we explore this rich palette of tools. And I feel like that's what's happened for me over time, is to have a wider set of tools so that when it's mild irritation, I'm doing some of the things, let's say that, Keith is talking about, really looking at, what's the source, or trying to take a different perspective, or the other person's perspective. There's all these things I'm capable of at that point that I'm clearly not capable of if I hit those stronger places. But I want tools then too. I want antidotes then too. So we've talked here of, John, you've talked about be like wood. So if I'm at, hitting that rage place, be like wood, or leave the scene. But I think that for me has been so enriching, is to have this wide palette of tools for anger, or for jealousy, or for whatever, at each level. And so it's been fascinating and the assignments that just came back from our group, some, just really wonderful, rich set of responses and ideas for all those levels. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, if you really just want to narrow it down for a week, is you could set an intention to make your daily practice one of patience. Right. So with patience is the ability to withstand discomfort. Right. And so just noticing discomfort come and go, just observing it. And I start working on it with little irritations, little things come and go. What happens if I don't react? Will it stay? Am I feeling it? And then, that's the other piece around emotions. We re-trigger them by talking about them, by dwelling on them, by bringing them back. But if we don't engage with that, they will all come and go. So this patience is an observation to start developing a fuller palette of tools, because you'll just start noticing. But it's not stuffing. We don't want to stuff emotions. You don't want to pretend they're not there. You just want to notice them fully. They're temporary. What am I learning from them? And it will help our relationships a lot too, because, be like wood, wait till the emotion, respond. And in ways that are more skillful. So that's always a good core practice, because with patience, then if that's your primary, you'll notice the irritations, you'll notice the agitation, you'll notice these things. And then, get curious about them. All right, let's go ahead and dedicate click on the wrong thing here. We'll dedicate the merit of our time together, merit and wisdom. Things we could be doing on a Wednesday night. We're here taking some time to learn how to be better human beings. It's pretty good. So let us dedicate any and all merit accumulated from our time here together, as well as throughout our lifetimes, for the benefit of all sentient beings, recognizing, just like us, they are all struggling to find their own way and all have their own worries, fears, their own conditioning. May the wisdom of these teachings and others like them nurture us in the world, and may we be able to bring it into the world in ways that are truly meaningful for others. And may we also dedicate the merit and wisdom for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may ultimately be able to apply these wisdom lessons in ways that are meaningful, that provide liberation for us from the afflictive states and lead us to liberation. And with that motivation, those who care to, you can join me in the dedication prayer as soon as I share it. Put it up here. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu